Welcome back to the Bazaar. I'm your host Inko, and I wasn't expecting to be doing another patch note video so soon, but I'm glad they were speedy about this. There are a couple of changes in this hotfix. The big one is hydraulic press taking a nerf. It starts at silver tier now, up from bronze, so it's a lot harder to find it. It's not as easy to find it early to scale it quickly, and its cooldown has gone up from 16 to 20 seconds. Those are all meaningful nerfs. In addition, its damage scaling has been hit heavily. It was previously 50, 100, 250, 500. Which was crazy damage scaling at Diamond to the point where you could, if you were winning on days 12 and earlier, just one-shot people with a normal unenchanted Diamond hydraulic press that didn't have multicast or anything. And now it's going to require a lot more work to actually kill them with it than just having it trigger one time with no bonuses. They also made it work in your stash, which I didn't even realize it was supposed to be doing. And also, it was previously bugged at silver and cost 24 gold for no reason. Fix that too. Hydraulic press was an absolute menace for the 5 hours that it existed, and it absolutely deserved this nerf because of one item in particular, the remote, which, it uses the core, and if you just put your core in the hydraulic press, it uses the hydraulic press instead. All of that still happens, it's still very strong, and I suspect it's still going to be a good card, but now it's going to be harder to find, less consistent when you find it, if you're not planning, or not really planning, but if you're not able to go out on 10 wins pretty immediately by day 12, you might be pretty sketchy about trying to do something like this in the super late game. I don't think they've killed the card. I just think they've made it not a default tier 0 strategy. I'm interested in seeing how it plays now. As for the rest of this, Chimeric Egg is a new item that when you sell it spawns an enchanted friend from any hero, and as you keep it in your stash, every day it gains value, and as it hits value thresholds, the egg upgrades itself to the next tiers. Now it's able to spawn any size friend instead of, I guess, just small ones previously. They've also fixed a new stealth item called the Box Cutter to work properly, not too worried about that. They fixed an issue with Tanky Anky where at gold tier it did not use its passive correctly, which was deeply frustrating for the people experiencing it. They've also added the relic type to the claws. They did something to Snowstorm, but I think that just says a weapon instead of your weapons now. Yeah, previously it was all weapons. So they made it an insane buff, but only to one guy. Drill build, here I come. If this is what they want it to be, I'm gonna keep trying to do it. It seems absolutely insane. They also nerfed the cooldown on both red button and remote control, instrumental parts of the hydraulic press combos I was talking about. And it is a very meaningful nerf, but I feel like at 8 seconds, kill your opponent, which is what remote control is like kind of doing in that build, might still be problematic. We'll have to see. Oh, there we go. There's the design for Toxic Flame. It was bugged. Okay. Previously, it said if you poison or burn, then all of your poison and burn items gain 2, 3, 4. It was supposed to be when you burn, scale your poison, when you poison, scale your burn, which is an infinitely saner thing for how high the numbers are. I'm not actually sure Toxic Flame is very good. It seems very niche now, but previously it seemed completely, utterly broken. And there's an option at the Aerodrome. I was going to do some other stuff that wasn't covered in the patch notes at the end of this video. I was going to mention this, but apparently I'm getting ahead of myself because it's in the patch notes. Now Aerodrome, the location that lets you reroll what event you're doing for the hour, has an option to buy a ticket for 20 gold. They made it so that that option no longer shows up after day 8, which is, when you wouldn't be able to use the ticket anymore. And apparently Tiny Furry Creature was bugged and would fail to spawn an item. It's fixed, but it no longer spawns expedition tickets. So presumably the expedition ticket spawning thing wasn't working and they just rolled it back. And Expert Pilot's being fixed. That's it for the official patch notes, but let's talk about some other stuff. I want to cover the changes that happened to the cards from before their reveal to when they launched. So let's start with Dually Set. I think there's only one change here. And that change is that Dinosaur has the vehicle tag. If you watch closely in the trailer, you can see a multicasted Dinosaur on a Dino Saddle board. So this is not like a change they meant to do. It's probably just something where in the pipeline, the revealed card didn't have all the tags. But this is a notable buff because of Dino Saddle and various other skills. I could be wrong about this, but I also think Flintstones was 5 seconds in the reveal and it's been brought down to 4 seconds. And lastly, Primal Core got nerfed. In the reveal, it was 20 damage at silver, which was just a huge amount. It's no longer rocking Shark Claw numbers. It had to be nerfed back down to Dually Core numbers, unfortunately. Just can't be out here matching Shark Claw. Vanessa's going to feel bad. Admittedly, it was probably overpowered because Dinosaur is a bit better than Vanessa's weapons, but it still hurts my soul to see it be just worse than Shark Claw, man. Shark Claw's not being accelerated by your other weapons, though, so I get it. Also, big news for items in terms of how they scale where we didn't know it before. Rex Specs gains double damage scaling at Diamond, but also charges for an additional second at Diamond, making him much, much better than I thought he might have been. And his enchants are crazy, by the way. Slow 3 for 5 on somebody being charged by like multicasted Dinosaur at 2.5? Are you out of your mind? Freeze 1 for 7? What the fuck are these numbers? Anyway, you want to enchant Rex Specs if you're running him. He seems good. Now, unfortunately for Maxat, I cannot currently update you on exactly how all of this stuff works, because if you look at howbazaar.gg for data mining, however the quests are coded, there's not currently an implementation for showing what these do as you unlock their effects. I can tell you my first impressions of the Mac quest stuff is that it was truly horrendous, and you know, that's to be expected, because my first impressions were playing a game where I just bought a couple of quest items, literally didn't know what they would do, and spent my run unlocking them, so I couldn't plan a build around how my items would actually function. But I got the distinct impression that it felt like Mac's items were balanced around being in late game library combos, which means they're absolutely awful in the early game and even the mid game. One thing I can confirm is the Eternal Torch and the Poison and Regen equivalents to it. They all have quest text where it's when you burn poison or regen, increase this item's burn, poison, or regen by 2 at bronze. That does scale with tier from 4 to 6 to 8. And I had a decently competent build going with that in my late game before my Mac run petered out and died. That does scale, and it makes the items much, much more playable than they otherwise might have been. It also makes Obsidian enchants on them very, very powerful, especially in the case of the regen version, because you can scale regen incredibly quickly in a self-poison build. To the point that I think the fire one is by far the worst, because the way you would want to use all 3 of these is you enchant the item and scale it to the moon by doing it very, very quickly. And self-poison does both poison and regen super rapidly, but nothing in Mac really burns a ton. So I don't think this has the same staying power to win a run the way that the other enchants do for the other 2 similar quest items. We can also see how Excavation Tool scales now. It charges an adjacent relic 1, 2, 3 seconds. That was the expected way for it to work, and it's still great, but I did want to confirm that it works exactly how we thought it would. Another thing, we can see the way the Frost Totem and its slow counterpart, the Sands of Time scale, their cooldown goes down with tier. And again, this makes it so that like you can do some pretty wacky stuff with the library in the late game, but it also means that like you upgrade this item and it does almost nothing in the mid game. We can also see the scaling for Macroscope. It's actually just lowering the cooldown and that's it. So you can get this be multicast for slow 1 for 1 4 times for 5-second cooldown. I swear to God, this item is just incense with extra steps, isn't it? If I had to like give a biggest loser to a card in the 20 that were revealed this set, it's got to be Macroscope now. This is actually just incense, but different, in a set that had nothing to do with this mechanic. And I will also give lastly my first impression of Blank Slate. It was a massive letdown. I unlocked all but the slow effects on this item, and none of them had good values. It was base 2 per tier for anything that had a flat value, poison, burn, and regen. And its freeze duration was half a second. This item does do nothing. The text told you the truth. Don't do this quest. Speaking of doing quests, I thought I'd also mention a lot of the quest criteria have changed since the initial launch, or since the initial reveal rather. For Idol of Decay, Eternal Torch, and Life Conduit, all of them now need you to buy 10 of their appropriate item type, but only scale up to 75 plus to unlock the multi-strike on them. The changes are bigger for the other cards though. Frost Totem and its equivalent Sands of Time both need to buy less items. Sands of Time only needs to buy 6 slow items, and Frost Totem only needs to buy 4 freeze items. Those are both way easier to do. They still need 10 relics for their multicast. It's also very worth noting that these relics, when you buy them, count themselves towards their own quest completion. Blank Slate, I think, has different values than it used to. I think it might have just been 50 across all of them or something, but now like it goes down as you get further down the list, and it doesn't feel that hard to do these at all. Soulstone has much more reasonable buy requirements than it used to, at 8 for your poison or burn, 4 for your slow or freeze. I don't know what its values are. And lastly, Tomb of the Ancients only needs you to do 2 quests now, which is tremendously easier than doing 4 quests after you find the silver item when all the others, well, most of the others start at bronze. So the quests are infinitely easier to do than I thought they would be. They don't take as much time. I have a really bad first impression of them, in part because in my run, I like got 2 and 5 and died on day 7 or 8. And I was doing that mostly because I was unlocking Blank Slate and Idol of Decay and Frost Totem and Life Conduit all at the same time. And of the lot of them, I at this point kind of firmly believe that Life Conduit was the only one that was any good. And while there are uses for maybe like super late game of Frost Totem or an Idle Decay for similar builds as a Life Conduit, just more offensive in nature, you don't want to do them all at once. Like the idea of doing the relic stacking, quest stacking build, oh god, don't do that. Like figure out what the quests do and which one you won't and ignore the others, much like you would most items. The fact that Blank Slate and Tomb of the Ancients sort of implied like this interlocking heavy relic build, don't do that. If you find yourself with a board of like 4 quest items for any reason, abandon course, turn around. Anyways, I've been enjoying the patch so far, even though it's been a clusterfuck of hydraulic presses and broken freeze skills. I hope you have as well, and I'll see you out there on the Bazaar. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.